Washington Commanders Nation, we're back. How are you doing? It is week 9 of the NFL season. Pardon my absence over the last few days. The injury bug has not only taken over and ravaged our roster, it has jumped over and seeped into the fan base and content creation. Your boy is on the short-term IR. I have a grade 2 muscle sprain in my backs and a slight rib fracture, but I'm going to be all right. Let's get to it. I got my guy Brandon Kane from Hawks Nest representing the 12th man. Seattle at Washington, best uniform combo game you're going to see all season. And once again, it's on prime time. Let's talk about it. Welcome into the show. For the first time, my guy representing the Hawks Nest YouTube channel. I dropped this link in the chat below. How are you doing today, Brandon?
I'm doing great, man. Really looking forward to this matchup, and I feel bad for you needing that back out of me. You know?
No, man. I blame it on the team. I blame it on the team. I'm now on the injury report. We've had a CVS receipt-length injury report for the majority of the season, and we're playing roster roulette. It's musical chair. Jaden, you're out 1 week. Oh, we get Terry and Debo back, but then Jaden doesn't play. This week, Jaden's back to play against the Seahawks on Sunday Night Football. Terry's back out, and we're probably going to be talking about potentially IRing him at some point. But you're coming off of, you and your Seahawks are coming off a bye week right now. What are the vibes in 12th Man Nation right now?
Flying pretty high, Rio. It's a one where you've been a pretty good team the last 3 years. We only team in NFL history that's had winning record in back-to-back years that has not made the playoffs. So this has not been a team that's been bad per se. But it's a team that feels like it's really earned its record this year so far, and that it feels more legit. You're getting up on teams. You're having problems like, man, we're just taking our foot off the gas in the third quarter. Well, it's kind of a good problem to have, isn't it? And it's pretty universal throughout this football team. And that, you mentioned your guys' health, and my heart goes out to you on that, because there's nothing worse as a football fan, especially as somebody's trying to analyze this and going, well, is it just the injuries, or do we need to do a lot of overhaul stuff? And you don't really ever know truly that answer. We're really in the health spot good, both sides of the ball humming, top 6 scoring offense, basically top 6 scoring defense when you remove this touchdown that the offense gave, was altered the system a little bit for them. So everything's giving special teams is really rocking right now. And it's very easy right now to just be very happy with what we're seeing with this team. And we still don't feel like we've even played our best football yet, which is still a scary proposition.
Must be nice. It sounds like all optimism coming from that side of the matchup. You guys were in the market for a head coach, just like Washington was in the 2024 offseason. And we were 2 of the final teams, if not the 2 final teams, that needed a head coach. Who was your lead dog, and who was your lead candidate when the job was vacant? And what has Mike Macdonald proven to fans so far in his short tenure as a young, innovative defensive mind?
Yeah, I had a 3-stack pecking order that went something like, if I remember correctly, it was Harbaugh, and I think it was Vrabel, and then it was Macdonald as my 3 that I wanted in that pecking order at the time. I think you could have been good with either of those 3, quite frankly, as well. But I love Mike Macdonald, and I think as much as anything, you went for, rather than the known quantity of what you could get as somebody that's been around the block and done it before, you went for what we call the upside on a player here in this coach. You went for the guy that you thought could be the Sean McVay of the defensive side of the football. And what we've seen from him is everything that he's done at his prior stops. This man went to Michigan. He was lent out to Michigan to basically not only train them on a whole new defense, but train that entire staff. And he brought that staff along so that when he left, that staff was on point and knew how to run that defense. He went to Baltimore, took over for Wink Martindale, same defense, restructured it up, made adjustments within it, and then made that thing legitimate. And now he's come here, and another defense is now the 3rd one that he's come in to really kind of put into place right and get the immediate returns like he has. And it just keeps getting better and better and better. And as we talked yesterday, one of the things I love most about it is he runs a cutting edge, modernized defense, not 1988, not 1988. You know what I'm saying? Whoa. I don't need no 1988.
That exists. That exists, Brandon.
Oh yeah, I know it is. I do. I sat with it for years, just going, "What are we doing?" Off coverage, and Shanahan would come out there and he'd see 2 corners off coverage, safeties dropping to depth, and like, I'll just run the out route. Oh, just run an over, and it's over. It's open every time because you're dropping to depth with cover 3. So it's like you make it so easy on the quarterback. And this makes it hard because not only are you flipping coverages on the backside, we show you cover 2, it becomes cover 3. We show you cover 3, it becomes cover 1. You can slide a corner to the outside who becomes a safety, but then you also marry it to your fronts. So that with your fronts as well, you're always running a lot of different games from stack boxes to simulated pressures on the front side. So from a quarterback's perspective, I both have to look at this coverage pre-snap and know that it's not going to be that post-snap. And then I'm oftentimes looking at the stack box and going, okay, who's coming, who isn't? Because he's going to tend to still only send 4 guys. You're still going to get the 7 guys back in coverage.
And still get home.
And still get home. And still get home. And then you're leaving one-on-ones of the stack boxes because now you change the protections. So now you get your really good pass rushers, the one-on-ones. You end up with a lot of offensive linemen that are doing this kind of move post-snap, and they don't end up blocking anybody. So it is an awesome scheme. It's what I've been wanting for years after being in the same kind of defense. Unfortunately, you find yourself kind of within. I think Dan's done some things a little bit from where Carroll is, because Carroll was kind of a hardliner with it, where I'm going to run this true and pure, and I will be this how it is. Dan will do a little bit of extra stuff, the stunt game and whatnot, but this is the way to me. I think that this whole approach to the NFL defenses of that these guys can't think. They can't be asked to have a couple of different details. You just want them running fast and free. You give them a couple of details, you bog them down, and then they're just not running fast and free. I think these guys can handle it. I think Mike Macdonald shows that with this defense. And everybody on the defense, to a man, talks about how smart this guy is. I don't think that that's just something that you always hear with all head coaches or defense coaches. This guy's a genius. This guy sees stuff that's just unbelievable. He puts us in positions you just cannot imagine in what he's picked up on tape. And it's everything I've wanted for years. True.
He's a guy that was high on a lot of our wish lists. I know my personal wish list, my top 2 guys were always going to be offensive guys, because I'm always like, if you're coming in with a young kid quarterback, marry a young quarterback to a offensive-minded head coach. So Ben Johnson was very high on my list, even though we weren't sure of what the leader of men was going to be from him. But Mike Macdonald was the only defensive guy on my short list of guys I wanted to coach, because I want a young coach, like you said, modernized football. Older coaches, not to discriminate, they can get stuck in their ways. The scheme is the scheme, and no matter who I got out there, you need to stick to the plan, even when the plan's not working. And you get stuck into this. We have a defensive-minded head coach, and for the second year in a row, we're not very good defensively. So it's like, what's the point at that point? What's the year-to-year growth and ascension been like from year 1 to year 2 for Mike Macdonald?
It's been just kind of building more on what you were doing last year. He inherited all of the personnel on the defensive side of the ball, and that was Carroll's defensive scheme. And it's part of what makes this so impressive is that he's taken like personnel from a completely different scheme that's on another end of the spectrum from where he is and how he operates. And he's been able to utilize this personnel and make it work within his scheme. Now, you've added some other players along the way now that are more bringing this to life, but it's just that you're feeling him kind of adding layers, especially the past couple of weeks. He started out the year where there was still a lot of kind of still staying with some vanilla sort of stuff early on the year. And now he's really, the last couple of weeks, started to really dial up that flavor and give you some of that spice. And you can just feel how hard this makes it on offenses and how many little details are driven within this to make this thing go. But it is, he's legitimately that guy. I agree with you. You do tend to want to go offensive, especially with the coat, with the having already the quarterback in house, as you do in that way. But he's kind of that exception, right? There's always exceptions to the rules of this guy's just so bright. He's such a difference maker to that side of the ball. Not to mention, Rio, we've seen a slide a little bit back to defense the past couple of years with the cover 2 shell proliferation and how that's reduced the passing attacks down, how they've had to go back to running the ball. Defense comes a little bit more back into the forefront of things. So also pretty good timing to be able to do this. And if I'm not mistaken as well with the Ben Johnson, I think the rumor was with that he blew that interview with your Commanders.
He left us on red in midair as they were sending a team up to Detroit while the plane was in the air. He told them, I'm going to pass on this final interview for the job. So we went out there and interviewed Glenn because he was a part of the mix as well, kind of as a formality. But yeah, he told us, he said that our guys were basketball guys, Josh Harris and company. And he wasn't a fan of how they envisioned building the team. So he didn't even take the final interview. And from what everybody told me, they were going to offer him the job. That was their guy. That was the guy, Josh Harris, Adam Peters, Bob Myers, and company they were locked in on. So he pretty much said, "No, I'm good."
Probably should have taken that one over the Bears. I'm just saying.
Man, but hey, more power to him. And I do like the hire of Dan Quinn, a guy you are familiar with. So, based on your time with Dan Quinn and the whole Pete Carroll method of football and schematics, what were the things that drove you crazy when they were in Seattle?
Well, when you had the elite talent, and the thing is, when you had the Legion of Boom, you had elite talent across the board. And that's an important part of this, is that when you have difference makers almost all the way through 11 in what you're rocking out there, you can run a little bit of a simple scheme. And I would argue to you that a Quinn and a Carroll system can work, but you better have the dogs on defense. And the problem with these two guys with their defense is that time and time again, they don't put enough dogs out there. And I know some of this is the general manager, but with Carroll, of course, he had vice presidential duties over the top of our GM throughout his time here for the most part. So he had the ability to kind of have oversight on how he wanted to build it. And he had multiple times of rebuilding that defense to try to put that much talent together, but that's hard to do. It's a once in a generation kind of defense. You're not going to be able to stack that much talent. And so where they lean into is they lean into thinking that we do too many things. We're going to have blown coverages, blown plays, and then that's going to then, lead to bad results. So what we need to do instead is we need to protect against the deep ball, take away the run, turn them into one-dimensional. And then, we're going to leave a lot of opening holes on the front side of this short and sometimes intermediate, but they're going to eventually get where they want to try to take a shot. Every offense wants to take that shot in the game. Everybody, they always are going to get that pull. Those quarterbacks, I'm telling you, they get impatient. This is what Carroll would tell you. They get impatient. Then they don't want to just sit there and take that check down all day. Check down. But they started about 2015 realizing Carroll's defense that you could do that. And Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan specifically, because with Kyle Shanahan, remember, he was on Quinn's staff.
Yep.
So he went against that defense constantly and learning exactly, it's okay. Yeah. It's just that simple. It's that rudimentary.
And the guys that worked with Quinn, they tear his defense up whenever they see him.
Because there's no complication to it. When I'm reverse engineering your defense every week, and I'm going, even I'm vaguely aware, there's no he's doing this alteration and he added this modification, and oh my gosh, he's rolling coverages like this post snap. Coach Carroll for years, last in the league at rolling coverages, running some of the most minimal amount of coverages that you're going to run, some of the league least blitz rates. Dan dials it up to kind of at least middle of the road to keep you honest, which I give him credit for, on that side of it. But all of these things just become so terribly predictable, especially when so much of the onus is to stop the run and protect the deep ball. You're going to leave something open defensively. And when you're just that one note every time of here's what's open, a smart offensive coordinator is going to know what to do with that. And they're not going to just run the ball into a wall at that point if the passing is there to be had. And that's what teams started to do with time. And I think that's what teams are kind of starting to do with Dan Quinn. You see a lot of yak. You see a lot of guys in open spaces, flood zone concepts, kill your zones, because guys get carried out of the zone with the first guy and they just run the other guy right through the back end of it. It's really not, to me, extra advanced stuff in how you take this defense down. And that really is what would piss me off about it, because you should, as a coach, be putting your players in positions for success as much as possible. You're not going to be able to do it on every play, but as much as possible, giving them that opportunity. And we were on the other end of that, it felt like, where you're setting them up almost for failure in how they're aligned, and that you're not confusing a quarterback. If you can confuse a quarterback, Rio, I mean, doesn't that feel like a mandate that you must do in this day and age? If I can let a quarterback with all their, like your guy with his VR turning up to 150% speed and all that, like, these guys know really quickly what they're seeing. And if you let them identify something fast prior to the snap that is going to be that post snap, they will execute the play and they will tear your ass up throughout the game.
With comfort. And that is a problem on a weekly basis. Quarterbacks look too damn comfortable versus our defense. And on top of the schematics thing and the being afraid to change approach, we're the oldest roster in the league, and a lot of that age is on the defensive side of the ball. So we really can't run with teams on top of it. But starting on your offensive side of the ball, y'all move on from Geno Smith, trade him to Las Vegas. He gets a bag out there. Y'all give a healthy bag to Sam Darnold. Did that feel like a lateral move or an upgrade when it happened? And he looks as advertised so far, right?
Boy, he's been better. I think he's having a better year right now than he did with Minnesota. He is your highest rated quarterback by PFF. I know people don't always like those grades, but I think that's pretty significant in itself that we're almost halfway through the year and he's a number one. So he's been even better than he was last year for Minnesota. And you know that the whole ghost thing is the thing that's just a narrative sets on quarterbacks and they can't shake it, and it's not fair. I think that big part of where I've grown now in looking at quarterbacks used to be just go draft the guy, go get the guy, just go draft the guy. I'm getting more onto the point now, Rio, where I go, the smart teams need to look at the market opportunities for those quarterbacks that have been just sort of thrown into the trash heap because a team decided, well, they're not good enough. But then if you backtrack it a little bit, you come to find, well, it's a bad ownership and, not good general manager and didn't have a good coach there helping him to let him grow. And this is the case with Sam. He needed time to grow and he needed time to get better and improve. He's a young guy coming into this sport out of USC. He was on one of those 25-year-old type of prospects like, Tyler Shock out there with the Saints, for instance. So he has been absolutely a revelation for the position. He's also, it's not with it just everything's being made easy for him. We're not running the ball particularly well. The reason we're not running the ball is because we're facing I think it's the third highest rate of stacked boxes in the NFL. We're facing the third highest rate of blitzing in the NFL. Yeah. And it's because we're doing condensed splits at the highest rate in the NFL. And I don't know why this is. Maybe you have a good reason for this, but something's happened here to where when teams see these condensed splits with our receivers in close to the line, they're automatically going stack box and a lot of blitzes to the backside of it. And then Sam has all that green grass to throw into on the backside because sometimes you're not having the safety help. Got everybody down here. And every team, even teams that aren't blitz heavy, even teams that aren't stack box heavy, have just sort of done this one shop approach to this, which I think this might be the first week I know this is not really Dan's bag, so I don't think we're going to see it this week. Then that's, no, probably not. He'll stay with the 4-man fronts. But it has it's made it where you have not been able to run the ball because if you're going to face that amount of stacked boxes, I don't care who you are, unless you've got like the Eagles offensive line from a couple of years ago, it's nowhere to go. You got to throw against that. You got to take them apart on the back end where they're giving you one-on-one opportunities with your receivers, with your tight ends. And he's done that, man. He's made just dime throw after dime throw, big throw after big throw. And I can't say how much I just utterly impressed by how he's played and really has us dreaming. Is this a guy that absolutely looks like he can go help us win a Super Bowl right now?
And he's throwing to this year's best wide receiver in the entire league, JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba, a guy I feel like the league overthinks. See, draft pundits and media, they overlook the sure thing because they aren't the sexiest height, weight, speed, measurable guy. They did the same thing with Emeka Egbuka this draft cycle from the exact same program, same style of receiver, just a jack of all trades type of guy, even with a bye week, still leading the league in receiving. Jackson Smith and y'all were willing to let old man Lockett go, trade DK Metcalf, and say we're going to build this whole thing around Jackson Smith-Njigba. What were the signs that it was going to take off to this level?
Hard to say that. Well, he had definitely a breakout year last year with the 1,200 yards. And so he showed you that he's got it in his bag. I think the thing that stands out this year that, I don't have a baseline for, and Emeka's doing a little bit of this, but I think Emeka is going to be more of a full-time slot when it's all said and done.
I think so too.
You had him in the slot for the first 2 years. I don't remember any college receivers, top-end receivers who've come out who played their college career significantly snaps within the slot who then could become outside receivers at the pro level. I mean, can you think of one?
You got to think for a little bit. You got to think for a little bit. Yeah.
And so you have this baseline, and then he comes into this year right now, and not only is he doing what he's doing from on pace to break Calvin Johnson's record, but he's doing it operating 80% of the time on the outside, though from those condensed splits. So Seattle's kind of found the cheat code here. Rather than it being pure outside aligned wide, he can be an X, but out of a condensed split X. And he's getting off press. He's beating the coverage on that. Teams are still trying to isolate him one-on-one. I'm interested to see if you guys actually start to try to roll some doubles his way, because that's been something that has been missing.
Doubles. We do us doubling somebody. I'm not sure if we have that in our bag.
I was going to say that is another kind of Carroll special where, we're just going to do what we do. We play our game. We don't play their game. We don't play we play our game. We take it to them. That's what they'll say. We take it to them. Oh, really? How's Lattimore doing out there with JSN taking it to him? Huh?
Hey, man, he got a pick on Monday for the first time, so he might have his swagger back.
It was impressive too.
It was nice, yeah, because you don't typically see a cornerback catch a pick on a back shoulder throw, and he went and got it. That was like, whoa, haven't seen this guy since he came over from New Orleans, but we're gonna have our hands full. This is a guy with a full route tree, with sure hands, and can make things happen with the ball. Are there any weaknesses to his game?
There really isn't. I think too, we got to benefit that last year. He had that hamstring injury, and that's what scared teams off, I think, because he only played like 2 games. And so that just kind of freaked people out on the final year out. But he's the full meal deal receiver as far as what he's shown. He can go up and get it. He's got good contested catch skills. He's obviously one of your better route runners probably in the sport, which it's significant with him because he's just so hard to get a beat on, and he can change direction on a dime. And that's really at the forefront of his game. He's got enough speed. I think he had 21 miles an hour this year on the GPS clock, but it's the change of direction and that he's going to be able to, go laterally side to side faster than you. And he gets in and out of his breaks, and he can do those little extra moves to sell an inside move and then come back out. And it's just so very, bloody hard to stay with. I did answer your question too when I had with both the Geno Smith, the Tyler Lockett, and the DK contract, all those situations, I thought that was a smart move at the time to go the direction they did. I didn't know Sam was going to play like he is playing, but it was what I called at the time taking one step back to take 2 steps forward. Because in Geno, you have a very older quarterback at that point. Signing that guy to one of your top 2 contracts on your books, was that really the smartest approach to take for where he was at in his career and what you're trying to, build and go? And then with DK, he's a really good receiver, but he's really best suited in kind of what the offense is he is with the Steelers right now with Arthur Smith. A power running scheme that can force a safety down the box, and then you have him with one-on-one opportunities to take the top off the defense. West Coast precise route running, that's what you're bringing in with Kubiak. Probably not going to be as much the DK's game, and so a lot of Hawk fans were freaking the hell out of this, but I wasn't, because I could kind of see the plan on this and why you were doing what you're doing. Even if it was going to be just a lateral move to Sam and he wasn't going to play at this high water mark that he's played at, you still could go, yeah, I understand that you're giving less money to Sam, 7 years younger a player. And it just kind of all, sort of added up. But it was also to set this open for JSN because they knew what they had in him. But again, it blows me away a guy's doing this and making this transition as a pro. I've thought and banged my head. I cannot think of any college receivers who've come out in recent years that have ever done this type of thing. Even Amon St. Brown, for instance, he's in transition to the outside. He's in the slot. That's where he's living. Or even the guys that can kind of do it's 50-50, not 80% to the outside.
Yep, he's a predominantly boundary receiver. And it shouldn't shock too many people considering he was a 1,200-yard guy as not the first option on that team last year. With DK, Lockett, and a run game, he was not the main target and was giving you 1,200 yards of production. To put that into context, our number 1 receiver, our superstar, Terry McLaurin, I know quarterbacks play a factor, has never had a 1,200-yard season. So the fact that he did that as the second to third option on the team last year should show people just how good he could be. But we're talking about crazy production. With last 3 games, at least 8 catches, at least 120 yards, at least a touchdown. 5 100-yard games in 7 games. This dude is on pace for like a 1,900-yard season. This is absurd.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it is just funny numbers. And it's almost like last year he did this as well, where he has these games where he puts up like the Moss-like games. Remember when you look at Moss at the end of one of those games, you're like 243 receiving yards in a
right.
game. And he's not doing like Moss where he's just, he is taking the top off the defense and
volume.
It's volume, and it's those intermediate routes that he just gets open at will and catches everything you throw his way. But he has these games where you go, man, I don't know if he just feels unstoppable. And it kind of, with Randy, it made sense. He goes 6'4", runs like a deer, can jump out the roof. You go, yeah, okay, I get it. I get why the corners are kind of helpless there with it. But with him, he's doing it from a pure wide receiver route running, putting all of your traditional skill sets together, but being dominant in each individual one to make it happen.
Man, it must be nice, man. He's filling up the stat sheet. And just to let fans know, every team has a number 1 option. Every team that's playing against said team knows who's getting the ball. When a guy is like that, he's still going to get thrown to. It doesn't matter how you defend them. He's going to get his targets each week. And so far this season, he's making it happen every time he does get them. So y'all filled out the new wide receiver room behind him with old man Cooper Kupp, a receiver I really liked in the draft, and Torrey Horton out of Colorado State. Talk to me about the wide receiver room after JSN.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit from some folks with the world. Cooper Kupp's old. He's not got a lot of production this year so far. It's not been the case. He's actually really still showing off a lot of abilities, been healthy. When you're throwing it his way, he's making catches. The yak ability he had back with the Rams has kind of shown up in certain spots too, which has been very cool. JSN's getting 44% of the passing target share of this offense. And I think at least coming into last week, we're something like 20th in passing attempts. So JSN with almost 50% of the target share of the passing attempts, and then you're about 20th in the NFL in actual number of attempts you've thrown. So what this has done is it's just lowered down really the target share for everybody else across the board on this offense. And it doesn't mean that they're not good. It just means that they're not getting opportunities because JSN's eaten. And so, yeah, Cooper is still really good. I don't know if he's not vintage Triple Crown Cooper Cup, but he is certainly a guy that is a problem. And I think he's going to have a couple 100-yard games this year, especially when I eventually think some of these teams, somebody's going to smarten up and decide to roll some of coverage and bracket some stuff up on JSN, especially because he's doing it from the outside, which you can tend to double a little bit easier than when they're in the slot. So he's going to come along, and Torrey Horton is great. I loved him too coming out of college. I mean, a guy that gave Travis Hunter all he could take out there at Colorado State in that wild game a couple of years ago, and a guy with a full skill set, and a guy, you mentioned, well, how did they let Jackson Smith? How did this thing happen? How'd you, how they thought it's like, well, no, it was the hamstring, and all the NFL teams got worried he couldn't run 40s. They didn't get a 40. I don't have a Jackson 40 time. He's only 6 foot, and I mean the arm's short length, and maybe he's only going to be in the slot. Torrey Horton, ankle injury last year. Back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving seasons at Colorado State before last year's ankle injury. Ankle injury somehow causes him to drop all the way to the 5th round, despite the fact the man is amazing punt returner. He's got a punt return touchdown this year of like 90 yards, and he's really good on that. But then he's a grade A receiver, outside guy, good length, good speed, good hands. He kind of puts it all together. I think the future is pretty bright for him. I'm not saying that I see him as being like a star, but I think the kid's got a little bit of something to him.
And the return ability on top of the wide receiver ability. That's just a jack of all trades. So we got our hands full in the secondary with these guys. Not to mention what scares me the most and what a lot of people don't talk about. Y'all have some athletic tight ends, and that is my kryptonite. A guy you know and love is our Mike Backer over here. Bobby Wagner, future gold jacket guy for what he did with your Seattle Seahawks. I see tight ends that all you got to do is send up the seam or into space, and we're going to have problems with that. Talk to me about Barner and Elijah Arroyo.
Yeah, Barner was a guy that came out in the draft with, and he was a running mate of Colston Loveland, the first-round pick that was taken this year at H-back tight end. And so what happened in Michigan was that you're in this run-heavy Michigan offense where I'm sorry, it sometimes seemed like they were trying to protect McCarthy to me. I wasn't a big McCarthy guy, and there was like their choice of running hyper. What they have that one game with 6 attempts against Penn State, I think, or something. And so you didn't have a lot of passing attempts to throw to him. And so then Colston got a lot of the target share, and the other receivers got the target share when there was thrown. So everyone goes, well, he doesn't really catch, but he's a great blocker. And he is. He's a really good blocker, but he actually has some catching ability. Just because he wasn't asked to do it didn't mean he couldn't do it. And he's got a little bit of kind of a, sort of a Tucker Craft kind of vibes to him a little bit. I don't know if he's fully as good as Tucker, but he's
don't say that. Don't say that. You know what Tucker Craft did to us a few weeks
I know. Ago? Well, I'm trying to put it out there in the ether, man. I'm trying to speak it into being here. That's what I'm doing. But he's got a similar kind of frame where he's an all-around old school kind of tight end inline guy. It's got a 61-yarder this year, so he can get down the field as well. And then you've got the 2nd-round pick, Elijah Arroyo, which was as much a pick, I think, about the future and a guy that's going to be this weapon move piece down the line. He is an H-back, so Barner's your inline. He's your H-back. He's a problem. If Bobby's got to be matched up with him, this kid's athleticism at his size and his speed at his size is really tough to deal with. The guy's got a lot of opportunities, but even last week, I think he had like a 30-yarder down the field, a couple catches early on, then we just kind of forgot to go back to him. But he's a very talented kid, and I think it's going to be hard for Bobby with that, and especially with Bobby on it too, because you get him with we're going to run a lot of that play action under center stuff, which is now it's your off-ball linebacker goes bump, 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 bump. Oh, flip my hips, reverse back, get up the seam. It's not just the spot drop into a space, and that's the really, I think, tough part for Bobby at this point in time of his career. It's amazing still watching him do what he's done, and I'd be interested to hear your thought on this of where you see him landing all time as an inside linebacker, because I feel like you got to eventually, with his longevity of greatness, even with some of the holes that might exist here as far as coverage go, he's kind of up there as far as the all-time ranks.
He's definitely, I think he's top 3, 4-ish.
I'm in that. I'm glad that's right where I've been at with it. I've been now look, Ray's got the top spot, right? Boom. No issues there. It kind of comes down for me on sort of the Junior Seau thing for me at this point. Can he leap up over a Junior Seau? I think he has taken Dick Butkus, because Butkus didn't have and some of the Lambert, they didn't have the longevity, right? They didn't have the Butkus played like 8
I think
years.
my guy London Fletcher's in that conversation too, and nobody talks about him, but like there's no really anything attached to his name, but he production wise, he did it for a while too.
I put this together a couple years ago when I was looking at Bobby and trying to figure this all out and looking at the inside linebackers. I actually did have Fletcher at 8 or something like that, 7 or 8-ish. I think the only guys that I maybe had put up there was, Singletary, Urlacher, Lambert, Buckus, Junior Seau, and Ray Lewis was kind of my pecking order in that. But I feel like Bobby's making a case here to maybe eventually on this even over and supersede what Junior Seau did and saying, look, I've done enough. This longevity is this much that I'm right there behind Ray. Yeah, would you feel that way? Or do you think that it's probably more 4-ish?
No, I think he's going to still, even with diminished athleticism, the instincts and the ability is still there. Like he's second in the league in tackles right now. He's a guy that can give you 120, 130 tackles in his sleep, probably for another couple years. I don't need him in my defense for another couple years. Love Bobby Wagner, but I see the writing on the wall. Our defense would crumble without him, but it's also at a liability with him on the field. But he's still a tackle machine. He makes business decisions sometimes, but he's a tackle machine. He's number 2 in the league, and it looks like it because 54 is always around the football. Some of it is not a good thing that he is there, but he's definitely up there to me, top 3 backer of all time.
Yeah, he's still a hard guy to block too. Man knows how to slip blocks and get off of him, and he can blitz. He's got a great timing for it. So he's still got some skills he brings in there. Play. It's just that one thing that is existing in his game that we saw here at the end too, where it's like, oof, boy, yeah, he can't quite get to that same spot he once did. I mean, this is a guy that once was able to take a slot receiver 45 yards down the field in his prime, step for step. And so I think, those days are probably long gone.
Definitely long gone. We're talking Washington versus Seattle. We're about to put a bow on the Seattle offense before flipping sides. But before we do so, here's a word from today's sponsor at Sleeper. The NFL season is here, which means you have a chance to win 1,000 times your cash on daily fantasy. Football has never been more exciting than it is with players like Jaden Daniels, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Jamar Chase. Pick on stats for these stars like touchdowns, passing yards, receiving yards, fantasy points, and more. We're up to a 1,000 times payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right and you could win big using promo code RIO91. That was promo code RIO91 and you'll get up to a $100 match bonus on your first deposit. Terms and conditions may apply. Promo code RIO91, and you are also sponsored by Sleeper. What is your promo code for those who already use mine?
My code is NEST, N-E-S-T.
Yep, code NEST or code RIO91. Win you some money on Sleeper, making some picks. I think there's going to be a lot of offensive mores that you're going to hit this weekend on Jackson Smith and Jigba, Sam Darnold, and dare I say Jaden Daniels plays this weekend. You're going to want to hit the more on that too, because we're going to need a heroic type performance from our guy on Sunday. But finishing off the Seattle offense, what's the offensive line look like this year? Y'all went O-line in round 1 with Gray Zabel, and there's 2 teams, one in each conference, that no matter what the draft looks like every year, I feel confident that y'all are going to come out with an A grade and everyone's going to believe in the plan. In the AFC, it's the Baltimore Ravens, formerly Ozzie Newsome down to Eric DaCosta. And over there, it's y'all with John Snyder. Y'all are a team I expect to nail the draft every single season because y'all one of the best ran organizations in the league. How do you feel about your draft class and then your offensive line?
Yeah, I think that it's been the transition the past 3 years, which has kind of recouped this for John, certainly in the early part of his tenure here as a GM, putting together the Legion of Boom team, drafting Russell Wilson in the 3rd round, getting Marshawn Lynch in a trade. He was in his bag at that time. I think what happened and what does kind of happen when you have a Super Bowl window team and that window is getting closer and closer to closing is you're trying to fix some parts here and there, and it gets less about being a visionary and more about you're trying to just keep things afloat a little bit. And what that led to was them drafting for need, especially early on, and overthinking things and going too far outside the box. And then after the Russell Wilson trade, and also once Carroll got a little bit of his vice presidential duties taken from him so he didn't have oversight over John, then John went back to the value-based mold. And I'll tell you what, I'm a hardliner here, Rio, a hardliner, in that, especially early in the draft, you've got to stay in the pocket of value. The draw is always there for these teams, and they talk the big game during the draft season. Value, value, value. We trust our board. We just stick to our board. But then you watch a lot of teams throughout the drafting process where you're like, Oh, I mean, when you guys took Slim Reaper, for instance, a couple years ago,
Oh my
I went,
God.
he's 165 pounds. You know, you're going like, how's this going to work?
And Jigba was on the board. Christian Gonzalez was on the board.
I know. Well, that's why that was one of my ones in the moment where I'm just shaking my head and I'm like, what are we doing? I mean, no, that's not it. But you got it. He really changed the value, and he said we're gonna. And he acknowledged this. He said we realized like, yeah, we got a little too cute and went outside and just stay to the value of your board. And even if you've got a positional group that's stacked up, because here's the hard part: you'll be at a first round pick like last year. You got Leonard Williams, you got Jaron Reed. You're feeling good about the defensive, but you feel like Byron Murphy's the best defensive player in the entire draft. What do? Well, if I'm drafting for need, I go to look for a different needed position, right? But if I really want to just say who's the number one guy on my board when I'm picking in the first round, I'm taking that guy and I don't care where my roster is at. I'm that guy. Baltimore's that type of team. They're going to draft for value. And when they start to go to draft for need, and I think when Baltimore last couple of years at times has gotten into that a little bit as they're in that kind of into that Super Bowl window, right? That topping off, that trying to keep the ship afloat thing. This is when you leave your identity. And so you mentioned the offensive line 3 years ago with this change to value. You drafted Charles Cross, a left tackle, the first left tackle you'd taken since Russell Okung like 12 years ago in the first round. And that was a big deal. And then Abraham Lucas in the third round. And this was the thing with the offensive line was it was crap show for like 10 years because John would not put the assets into it. But now, third round pick a couple of years ago, you've come back. You've got, I know Christian Haynes isn't playing, but that's a third round pick there. There's a first round pick in Gray Zabel there at left guard. So it's slowly now starting to come together where he's actually putting some of that assets in there. It needs more. Center and right guard is where you guys can get after us in this game. Anthony Bradford's playing kind of like bottom of the barrel at the right guard position, quick pressure. Sorry. Jesus.
No worries.
He's got, I had it on silent too. He's got just awful reps in there where he'll just whiff, and you've got the guys inside, of course, with Zerzon Newton and of course, Daron Payne, little Javon Kinlaw. You're going to isolate him. You're going to target him. You're going to get after him. And we're not running the ball well, but I don't know if that's as much the offensive line is. Again, I think that if you're a team that's going to be basically the most stacked box against you of anybody else in the NFL, I just don't think that I'm not one of those guys who go, you should run on anybody, anytime, anywhere. Well, no, I think that's then when you pass. I think that's when you start bringing out
anybody, anytime, anywhere. That is our team mantra.
God, I hate that. I hate that shit. That's that old football, like, we're just going to, yeah, that sounds
run it down their throat
in your chest, but it's like, it's not to a hill of beans when it comes down to strategy or, like you're just going to be mentally set. That's the same thinking of those guys that like think that when they get mad in a fight, that makes them stronger in the fight when they get mad. Like Hulk mode,
It's so funny that you say these things because this is the life we're living right now.
I lived it. We had to live it for 10 years. Like we got the Super Bowls. All right. We got the Super Bowls. Yes. But then we had to go through 8 years of this where I'm just imagine. And I know now you're in this place too, sometimes where you're trying to tell fans of what you're seeing and they don't like to hear it. You're like, yeah, it's simple and it's rudimentary. And like, no, you're being it. Why are you hating on him? I'm just seeing what I'm seeing. It's right there on the, look at the play. Look at the play. Look at it. And they don't want, nobody wants to hear it. So you're fighting this uphill battle against it, trying to convince people, but you're seeing what you're seeing and you're seeing it true, Rio. It's not, I mean, you saw yesterday when I was breaking down the defense, you're like, that sounds exactly like the defense we're running right now. It's like, I get the PTSD to it from it. I go, dude, it's so hard to watch because you can tangibly feel your defense making it easier on offenses. And it doesn't need, I don't need to know the play call. I don't X, Y, 2. I can just look at my eyes and go, you're making this easy on them.
Yep.
Way too simple.
Washington's defense can make plays if Seattle does what? What is the weakness of your offense?
It's got to be that center and guard position. I think if you can isolate your strength on that interior of that defensive line with those dogs you got down there, that they can get after it. And the worst kind of pressure is pressure from the interior. I can step up around outside pressure. I can pinwheel my way out the back of a pocket from edge pressure. Inside stuff, sometimes there's nowhere to go or you get ran right into the edge pressure at that point if you try to get around it. So I think that's really the main way to go. Certainly, I think that how you deal with the run here is going to be very interesting because there's been so many teams that have been so loading up to bear. And if Dan does go to that 4-man front, I reckon a guess Seattle would be like a kid in the candy store in that little bit of like, oh, we finally get just a 4-man front to deal with. It's not 7 guys up on the line of scrimmage here prior to the play. Like, let's run it. Sam comes up with the 2 play calls and goes, all right, we're going with a gap power or outside zone run. So I think that you could see a little bit of that, and how you defend the run out of those 4-man fronts will probably be a big determination on this, on the way that this rolls a little bit. But I'll be interested if Dan tries some things here with this. If he just tries to dial up a little bit of favor, especially knowing you don't have Doris Armstrong, you need some help with where the pass rush is a little bit. And so coaches at that point, you'd like to think, would try to help their guys out. And even if it doesn't work, at least you're trying to do some things to get it going, rather than just go, well, it's all on you guys. I'm gonna be back here having my margarita, and you guys just kind of figure it out.
Are you ready for a Jacob Martin revenge game?
I mean, hey, maybe so. You traded me for Cloudy. Yeah, he was there was a lot of people too at the time that were pretty busted up with. We traded him for Clowney when Clowney's on the franchise tag, and they were like, he's a good young rusher, and we're only gonna have a season of club control with Clowney. So he's a guy that's, bounced around, but he's found some effectiveness at a couple of different stops. I mean, he's not going to light the world on fire, but, and you'd love to have more of probably your fourth edge through the rotation a bit. But he get 2 sacks last week for you guys. He's got some dip. He's got a little bit of quickness off the edge to him.
Bend. He's got bend, him and Von. That our pass rush has now been relegated to Jacob Martin and Von Miller, because our starting edges, Dietrich Wise and Dorrance Armstrong, out for the season. And our 7th round pick from 2024, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, also out for the season. We're down 3 edge. This injury report does not stop here in Washington. It only adds to the list. I'm on the injury report now, so that should tell you what type of season we're having here in DC. But we know what that Seattle offense is going to do. And we're a defense that gives up 24 points a pop, and we've given up a lot of points over these last couple weeks. So they better show up. Joe Witt Jr., Dan Quinn, I don't know what y'all got to do, but if y'all don't do something differently this week, y'all are going to like this scoreboard on us on Sunday Night Football. Flipping to the opposite side of the ball. You know what Jaden Daniels, a healthy Jaden Daniels, is capable of. What is the game plan, and what are your strengths on the defensive side of the ball? I know one of my draft crushes was a player y'all took on day 2, Nick Emanwari. He was a guy I wanted in the 1st round of the NFL draft. Y'all get amazing value with him in the 2nd round. Talk to me about your defense.
It is a fun defense. It is it's a complete defense. It's not got any real place that you're going to be able to really go after. It's got depth that it can call upon. We can send waves at you. We've got 4 edges. We're getting Derek Hall back in rotation. So Mafe, Hall, DeMarcus Lawrence has been a monster for us off the edge. Uchenna Nwosu missed the first couple of games this year, and he's leading us in sacks with 5. So you got your edges that you can just run off the edge, and you can keep them fresh throughout the whole course of the game. And then you got 2 monsters inside, and Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy. And Leonard Williams has been a revelation since coming here as a 2nd round trade deadline deal. I mean, he is a guy that I think I like to have my lessons I can kind of learn and think about. And, when I get to this trade deadline, for instance, when I'm thinking about potentially, big moves you could make, and I don't think we're going to make this move, but I think about this in certain terms of finding sometimes those defensive players specifically that have been on the craptastic team, not due to their fault, right? And that, okay, they're playing at times where teams are running on them because they're behind in games, and they're on the field a lot, and they're tired a lot. And then taking that player and putting him in an environment where now you're competitive, you're playing for something. Now you're not losing every day. He goes from being Jets, Giants to now being on a team like this, and you're seeing this guy take his game to another level. He's been a better player with us, in my opinion, than he was with the Jets and Giants. More effective, more complete. And he wasn't bad as a player there. It's just that you can feel the way that this sort of motivates these kind of players when they're in this sort of environment and they're actually winning and things are going good. And then Byron Murphy was a guy that you were taking to be a 3 tech. You didn't take him. It was that whole value thing I talked to you about earlier with him. But what you've done is you've slammed him over as a 1 tech and a nose tackle. And he's about 295 pounds taking on double teams and actually kind of sometimes dominating them. This guy right now is leading the NFL in pressures when operating from a 1 tech, 2 tech, or 2 inside. So that means that he's leading league in pressures with typically having to take on double teams from that alignment. And that just is still getting it done. On pace for 11 sacks this year as a nose tackle.
Special.
That's special. And it also makes you wonder what the hell is going to happen when we let this guy eat from the 3 tech position, and now he's just getting nothing but one-on-ones. So this defensive line is complete. Ernest Jones has been the leader for us that I can't believe we're able to get this guy for a 4th rounder. He's a complete linebacker, 3 interceptions on the year this year. The whole thing with him is, well, he can cover. He's maybe not like Fred Warner in coverage, but he can cover. Drake Thomas, they've got kind of filling in there as a will linebacker. He's he's all right. He's been solid. He's been coming on more and more in recent weeks. Really fast coverage linebacker is kind of his claim to fame. And then the secondary, man, you're going to be down Julian Love, which sucks because we're really thinking we're getting our full secondary back. But even still there, Okada's filled in well. He's a top 15 rated guy by, just as a shorthand on this with PFF as a safety. So he's been holding the line good. Kobe Bryant has transitioned to strong safety well. And then the corners, Witherspoon, dog. Nick Emanwari, dog. Josh Jobe, dog. Tariq Woolen, really talented, but really hard to sometimes pin down as far as the performance you're going to get.
I was wondering, are y'all shopping Tariq Woolen? Because there were rumblings coming out of there that's the case.
Yeah, I think it was more of a motivation thing for the player because there wasn't going to be any value you're going to get from him in a trade, really, and it was trying to just, I think, light a bit of a fire. I mean, the guy is probably as talented as a cornerback as you'll find in all of the National Football League. 4.26 speed, 6'3", long arms, ball skills of a receiver, former receiver transition, but he plays the cornerback position like a former receiver, if you know what I mean. And you get a little bit of this like Trayvon Diggs at times too, I think, with Dallas, where those guys that are former receivers that try to become cornerbacks, it's like they can kind of look the part, but there's those moments where the slit of being a former receiver shows. Maybe the mentality.
He makes a big player is getting burnt. It's a catch-22.
It is a catch-22. But Nick Emanwari, you were right to be hot to trot on him. He's been out. He had a couple weeks where he was out with injury, but he's been put back in the lineup, and he has been just a monster since he's come in. I don't like to make this comparison, but I did make this comparison of him when he come out. I didn't quite see the comp that people were trying to make, which is everybody goes, oh, well, Mike has Kyle Hamilton. This guy looks like this is Kyle Hamilton. I thought Kyle Hamilton's tape was much better coming out of Notre Dame than what you saw from this kid out of South Carolina. But with that said, on the football field, operating as this slot now, he looks just like Kyle with the Baltimore Ravens and operating on the slot. Moves very similarly. The instincts, the aggressiveness to his game, and he's got just insane size. I mean, the guy is huge. And when I went and watched a training camp, he was lighting it up on training camp. He had like 4 picks in training camp, but every day I was there, he was a difference maker. This guy's going to be a star in this league. It's only a matter of time. And Witherspoon, again, too, is just he's coming back this week. That guy's so much fun to play.
I love that. He's a pit bull at cornerback, man.
He is. And I'm no doubt you watched a lot of the Illinois tape because Newton was coming out and Newton in that defense. So you got to see a lot. And he's a dog. And we've had him in the slot. I think he's going to transition now to the outside because they love of what they get with Nick Emanwari there in the slot now. And I think he might find a better home to the outside because that's mainly what he did at Illinois. It was as an outside come up. And I'm waiting for the moment where with Woolen and Witherspoon and then you can go press coverage on the outside, bring the stack boxes up, disrupt all the timing on the outside, and really be taking it to offenses. Of course, that's the whole origin story of this defense. When you go kind of back to the Buddy Ryan days and whatnot, that's how it wants to play. Mike's adjusted it with a lot of sort of press one side off coverage to the other, a lot more zone, a lot less blitzing, but it's still there in the playbook at any given time. You just need those guys on the outside that can run that press and run stuff. And Witherspoon can do that, and Woolen can definitely do that.
I was looking forward to Terry running the fade with Witherspoon and Woolen and company because last time we went up to Seattle, that was a fantastic game, by the way, even though we were a horrible team and it went down to the final minutes of the game. Witherspoon and Woolen had Terry and Jahan Dotson in hell for 60 minutes. We had to get saved by De'Ami Brown, and we were throwing passes to Brian Robinson that day because that's how sticky the corners were on the outside. So I know just how your secondary gets down. Just hearing you break down your roster, I have envy because there's so much draft and development shit going on this roster. There's so much team speed and athleticism and raw ability. Meanwhile, we're the oldest damn team in the league. And then a lot of the players we draft, we're afraid to put on the field. Like I know, for example, on our defensive side of the ball, we need to be sprinkling in Jordan McGee and Kane Madrano because they're the only backers on the team that can run. Luvu is a blitzing linebacker, and Bobby Wagner is 100 years old. I want to see young guys get out there and get after it. I wanted a guy like Emanwari in the first round because this team, I know there was rawness. There were things he needs to work on, but sometimes you bet on the traits with certain players. A team like Seattle can bet on said traits because they develop players as well as anyone in the league. Like you said, y'all will find a diamond in the rough, a guy that's way better than it looks like because he's in a bad situation where they don't develop talent. You bring them over to Seattle, they flourish into everything they were drafted to be. So I'm definitely a little envious because now I've been humbled and reminded that this is still a rebuild. We got so right to the shits last year. It was easy to forget that this is year one, new ownership, new GM, new head coach, rookie quarterback, and a flipped roster because Ron Rivera did such a bad job building this roster up and drafting. Like, we didn't even hit on a single first round pick in 4 years of his tenure. So now I'm reminded of what it looks like. And hearing you talk about the Seattle Seahawks roster, it's a clear reminder of we got some work to do over here.
You do. I think you guys are in a good shape in a lot of ways, and that, you know, the fundamentals, I'd say, with your team are so good. The ownership's in right. I think you do have a good general manager versus where you've been in the past, like you mentioned, Ron, and building the front four up like he did, and then they just sort of bailed off the front four experience and started, you know, okay, Montez Sweat, go. Okay, Jace Young, go. All right, let's get Jonathan Allen out. Okay, we're just reversing course on that one on a turn, I guess. All right. Which especially I wasn't sure about that with Quinn coming in there, but that's, you know, neither here nor there. I think a big part that I can't undersell that has helped us with this, that is certainly supercharged this whole sort of rebuild we've had over the past 3 years and can't be undersold, is the Russell Wilson trade. Because you moved one of the all-time, I'm not going to say it's up there with the Browns trade, with what they had with Deshaun. Texans beat him on that. Still, the Herschel Walker trade still wins there. But I think you make an argument this is the third or fourth most lopsided trade in NFL history in what you did, especially considering they had to pay him a contract after they traded for him, and we saved that money versus paying Russell that money. But you were able to jumpstart with those picks multiple times over, and even this offseason, we're able to flip something for Geno. We're able to flip something for DK Metcalf. You know, it's not first-round picks, but these are just more day two picks now you're stacking on up. You eventually are just loading your roster up, the more of those extra picks you can go find. Yeah, that's what I'd like to see your Commanders try to do if they can. I mean, you need the assets to move, granted, but that's something where we talk about where this game goes this week, Rio, and win, loss. Do you go to sell mode? Who can you maybe sell if you do go to sell mode? Do you put that in there in your thinking? I know we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but I wonder about that from Washington in this game if it does steer that way.
Yep, you fall to 3-6 with a 5th NFC loss in 9 weeks of football. You do have to start thinking about, I'm not sure how many players we have that could fit something, but we have to start making calls and shopping guys around. Like, you don't want to see a guy like Daron Payne get traded because he's one of the only good players on the defense, but he's a player that could fetch you something. You know, when in the process of turning this thing over, we need to add younger talent. We need draft picks. We don't have a second rounder or a fourth rounder next year because of the Tunzel trade. Tunzel's looked fantastic for us right now. He's hurt right now too, because who's not hurt on the Washington Commanders in 2025? But we need picks. There's no way we can be buyers. We should only be sellers because ultimately we need to be drafters. That Russell Wilson trade was not only important because of what y'all got, it's the team that got it. We see teams get a spoil of riches of draft capital and do absolutely nothing with it. You know, remember the RG3 trade we did with the Rams? They didn't get any impact players out of that. They were all gone out of the league as fast as Robert was. It was almost like a handshake of null and void.
And but, Raiders, remember their Khalil Mack Raiders one? Like, look what they did to that. I mean, Josh Jacobs was the pinnacle of all those picks that they pulled through.
Yeah, when you get that, that's supposed to jumpstart the next build. You're trading one of the best players in your franchise's history. You got a bunch of stuff for it, and you hit on them, and you just got to fill in and draft correctly, and then y'all look like a player in the NFC East already with a young head coach in his second year on the job. Y'all look primed and ready to compete with anybody. I think possibly the best game played so far this year was the last game y'all lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a shootout. That looked like a playoff matchup right there.
Bucs are good, man. That's a well-coached team, and I agree. I think we might end up, facing them back down the line, and they're not an easy match, and we really struggle with them. And it really did also drive a little bit of getting us out of some of the vanilla looks we were just so constantly in the early part of the year. And Mike really turned that on a dime and recognized I need to do more here in what I'm doing. This can't be this, simple in my approach. This is not who I am. It's not our DNA. And the last couple of games, they've really switched it up in that way, and you really feel the effect.
What's going on, Kyle? My mind saying we need Clifford in demon mode calling plays with no deep shots on 4th and 1. We were talking about that on your channel yesterday because when it comes to the spread air raid style offense, you you oversimplify things. No. You sometimes you need to simplify things. You think too hard. On 4th and 1, we're shotgun passing. Like, that's not a world you want to live in, but you get desperate. You're playing against a team with Jaden Daniels coming off an injury that has not had a run game and has seen nothing but stacked boxes, a healing but not all the way there Deebo Samuel, no Terry McLaurin, old man Ertz, Jalen Lane, and Luke McCaffrey. What is the defensive game plan? Just play your game and stack the box, or do you even need to stack the box? Because y'all get home in the pass and run game just out of your base.
Yeah, I think we're probably not going to necessarily stack the box. No one's been able to run on us yet this year. No one. Nobody. Now, some of that is that we've gotten up on teams and they're having to beat from behind, so they have to throw a little bit there. But, that's where I think we're going to probably play this pretty legit, and that you'll see some stack boxes mixed in, but it's just on certain downs and distance. It's certain things that they're looking like 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9 when they can get you there, because then, we don't give you the time to get to the sticks. I mean, that's a big part of that there with blitzing on that, is to try to get that quarterback before he can let those routes develop to get to the spot. And I don't know if we talked about this yesterday. I think I ran into a Raiders fan. I might've spoken this with you yesterday if I'm repeating me. Sorry on this, but talking to him, I walk in, I'm like, oh, how you doing? I was getting a burger he's a bartender at this place, getting a burger, and he's suffering Raiders fan. And I'm like, yeah, you're going through it. And he's like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. Cause they got Chip Kelly out there who runs a spread on, maybe not in full air raid, but there's a lot of air raid within Chip Kelly's stuff. Right. And he goes, we got 15 plays. We scripted them. We put them in advance. One run with no Brock Bowers and no Jacoby Myers. What are we doing? He's just like slamming the glass down. And I'm like, that's what you get with the air raid guys, throw for show, run, run for show, throw to go. And it is, they cannot help themselves. We dealt with this last year, man. Ryan Grubb, 70% passing of the time that you're going to throw the ball, like out of shotgun too. Oh, no play action under center, no under center stuff. It's like the equivalent of what we talked about in the defense. You start to become so static and so predictable in what you're doing that it becomes, you're making the job easy for the defense. And I just feel like this is why I don't like the air raid offense, quite frankly, because I just don't think they can help themselves, Rio. I don't think they can stop themselves. And they're like a kid with the cookie jar right there, and the cookie top's off, and they just got to sit there and stare at that chocolate chip goodness and not touch it, not taste it. And they can't do it.
Yep, and they all have the affinity to abandon the run. It's almost like they plan for it. Like, they can't wait for you to shut the run down so they could just air that shit out every single play. We come out and 3 and out sometimes because we go pass the start of game, and it drives me crazy. We never give our young, talented running back, Bill Krosky Merritt, any time to gain any rhythm. On top of that, the offense has not got much of a push in the last few weeks since his breakout game versus the Chargers a month ago. It's been all downhill ever since, and that's putting too much on the quarterback. You're just telling Mariota or Jaden Daniels to put a cape on and save us each week. You can't be forcing all these passes every week when it's Zach Ertz, Deebo Samuel, and a bunch of guys out there. Luke McCaffrey is starting to ascend. We don't know what Jalen Lane is a receiver yet, but he doesn't seem like he can catch. It's very aggravating at times, but this is a game where if Washington loses, you can almost throw the season away 9 weeks into the season. So I expect to see one of the better scripts we've seen in quite some time. And after the script is done, we're going to see what Cliff does, because y'all are going to punch us. What's going to be our way to punch back? Because we've seen bad defenses come here and look good. We made the Dallas defense that's historically bad look good versus us. We made the Chicago Bears defense that couldn't stop the run to save his life come in here and look like the 85 Bears. So Seattle is a well-coached team with a young, innovative defensive coordinator. It scares me, but out of pure fandom, to close this one out so I can let you go and not keep you for too long on this Thursday afternoon, I'm picking Washington to win off pure fandom. Do I think Washington's going to win this game? No. I do not think Washington's going to win this game. I'm going to pick us to win because I'm not yet prepared to start mock draft Mondays on the YouTube channel right now. But we could be coming in here on Monday morning power ranking what positions Washington needs in the draft, because 3-6 and 5 conference losses, you're not catching Philly for the division, and the division would be your only route unless you go absolutely streaking after this. And we only got the Detroit Lions coming up next week.
Just that little paper tiger, you know.
I'm going to say 27-24 Washington. Us keeping a team under 27, that's funny, but I'm going to go with 27-24 Washington because I don't want to believe that my team's season's over just yet. And I know Jaden got one of those performances in his bag somewhere, and Cliff and company need to tighten it up. Do I think we're going to win? No, but I'm going to go with us anyway, man. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, unfortunately, I do see us taking this game pretty comfortably. So I've got it at like 24-13, I think is what you're going to probably see, 27-13, somewhere in that neighborhood. Right. We're coming off the bye. We're maybe as healthy as we've been coming off the bye at this time of the year as we've been in maybe 10 years. And I think that not only that, you talked about how talented the team is and how that talent's, coming to fruition now. It's not, theoretical talent. No, it's talent that you're going to feel on the field that's there, that's ready to roll, and we're cooking. The Russell trade was 3 years ago. These guys have developed. A guy like Charles Cross is an absolute pillar out there. Abraham Lucas is a pillar out there for your right tackle. So, I think that's what you're going to probably get in this game. The Seahawks team is a hungry team, and the buy-in has been there with this team. It's part to understand is that there's been all teams that go to become and want to become greatness. There has to be an ownership from the players in-house, and not just in what they're just sort of saying, right? It's in full off-season participation in the voluntary OTAs. Everybody shows up. That speaks to leaders making sure everybody's getting, I want to go to Cabo. No, you're not going to Cabo. We're on a mission here. We're trying to get this done. And it was there with the intense practices they ran without training camp. The coaches and players noted at how hard they were getting after it. And I think you're getting some of the returns of this on top of it. So feel really confident where this team is at. I don't think that this is just a no-brainer. We win it. I think you guys got more than a chance. Jaden Daniels is a sensational young quarterback. The future's so bright for you guys there with him, and he gives you guys a chance, no matter how beaten down you are.
Yep, and this is a team that has lost no game. The Seahawks have lost no games on the road this year. They're like 4-1 in their last 5 games coming off the bye, and this is our third opponent coming off a bye this year. Appreciate you, Sal, for that super chat and for this tidbit right here. It doesn't spell well for Washington. See, my head says Seattle 27, Washington 17, but my heart just has to predict the W because the season last year was so fun, man. Last year, the vibes
it was magical,
immaculate. It was sensational, and life comes at you fast, and your title windows can open and close expeditiously in this league. And I like how respectfully you said, yeah, no, we're going to win this one handily. We're going to win this one handily. And this is going to be a fun uniform matchup. Y'all are wearing your throwbacks. We're wearing our Redskins throwback uniform. It's going to be a pretty matchup. Look at this. We got throwback versus throwback. If we're going to lose, we get to lose in style on Sunday afternoon.
It'll look good doing it. That's what they say. At least look good doing it,
And we're retiring Art Monk's number that night.
Let's go.
Our franchise history, man.
He was awesome. He was great. He was a couple Super Bowl winning teams. He was part of there, right? Back in the
all the 80s, glory days before I came into fruition in my NFL fandom. But this is the uniform matchup. He's predicting a 2-possession Seahawks win. I'm manifesting a Washington Commanders win, but I don't know, Jim. But I appreciate you for coming on with me. I did an hour on your channel yesterday. You did an hour on my channel. One of the most knowledgeable guests that we've had come on and rep for their team. Let folks know where they can follow you and where they can subscribe to your channel, my guy.
You can find me on the Hawks Nest here on YouTube or at Seahawks Nester on Twitter, or my 2 stomping grounds.
Absolutely, man. And we will definitely get up again, and especially to get your opinion on draft when that time comes. It might be coming a lot sooner for me and my guys over here, man.
And it's the first thing I'm just starting to dip my toe in those waters. And unfortunately for you on this, it's not going to make you happy to hear. I'm not hearing great things and not seeing some initial great things about this draft. So I hope it gets better maybe as the end of the college season winds down, but it's been a little bit of a, there's a couple positions that are good, but Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Oh, man. Oh, I think y'all are a good traveling fan base. How would you say so? What do you think it's going to be like split-wise from Northwest on Sunday?
Yeah, unfortunately, and I hate this about the NFL right now, they've messed up the home field advantage because they've allowed these bots to essentially buy the tickets when they get for sale, and then the bots end up selling it to other fans. So our stadium, when it once didn't happen, it started to get taken over. It's not because we aren't loyal fans or that the Washington fans won't be loyal fans or that they're checking out because this is where our record's at. It's going to be because of this weird situation going on with these bots. I was hearing Bruce Arians talk about it with the Steelers. He's like, I'm looking at the Steelers in their stadium and there's Packer fans in the stadium in Pittsburgh. How is this happening? And it's like, this is just it. Every NFL team's kind of complaining about this right now. And so it's a bit of an issue. I wish the NFL would try to stamp it down because it is removing home field advantage. You mentioned us. We got 9 straight road wins we have packed up over the last couple of years. 9 straight. So it's not too bad. And that's for a team a lot of times got to go out from the West Coast and go play those 10 a.m. games on their body clock when they've got to travel out east and sometimes play some of those teams. So it has been pretty impressive what they've done.
Yep, they've won 9 games on the road, and we've lost all of our games in primetime this year. We wanted the spotlight. The bright lights in this big stage does not necessarily want us back. I think they want to refund at this point, but we're going to see.
A little hot. Those lights are a little hot.
Yeah, man. I don't
you guys
know,
got some water?
It's a little bright on this side. 0-3. We get another one, and then we got another one at the end of the month versus the Denver Broncos. But we're going to see. Seattle at Washington, Sunday night. You've heard it here from Rio and Brandon representing the Seattle Seahawks. We're going to get some more updates on the team over these next couple days. I'll be back live again tomorrow to close out the week and get ready for an all-day Sunday afternoon and night watch party. Till next time, hail to the Washington Commanders. Let's keep everyone off the injury report. If you got to keep anyone on there, keep me on there and bring our players back. Talk soon, guys. We're gone.